Hi, Kevin. I want to welcome you to this conversation today. I'm really excited to have you. We've been excited to be able to do these conversations with experts from home, and I'm really excited to have you here, Kevin, my good friend and my colleague in suicide prevention work, who is very knowledgeable about this work from the inside out, and I really appreciate your perspective and everything you've contributed to the field, Kevin.
Thank you, Dr. Firestone. The feeling is mutual. I always love working with you guys in Glendon. Glendon has been a personal hero of mine with everything you guys do to change people's lives and to save lives.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad to ask you then find out that you and your family are safe and taking care of yourselves during this very difficult time where we all feel like we've been inside forever.
Yeah, I mean, it is a scary time. It's uncertain. We keep hearing that term uncertainty on the news, and there's so many mixed messages going on from so many different media outlets. Things are confusing, and it's hard to get the facts on what needs to be done, and the various counties and cities and states that are doing things so differently. It's a lot of information to take in and not get overwhelmed with, especially if you're living with a diagnosis like me of bipolar disorder with psychotic features. So that part can be difficult. I'm finding that I've lived in an uncertainty for so long with my mental illness in general that I'm almost more prepared for this than most. So that's been interesting.
That is interesting because one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, how do you think this time is particularly affecting people who do suffer with mental health issues and, are now maybe not being able to access their therapist? I know of someone who called their therapist and got no answer. It turned out their therapist was sick with COVID. Another person who's a psychiatrist, similarly, just, they live in New York City, all of a sudden their psychiatrist not available. Their assumption was maybe they got sick. And
Wow.
So I find it hard for some people to access the people they've counted on even.
Yeah, I think, trying to figure out what people need who have mental health issues at this time is important. I think connection is key. I think, we might have to physically distance, and I really don't like that term social distancing. I think that we need to socially connect while physically distancing. And I think if we continue to follow, I follow the 3 Fs: faith, family, and friends. Now, I personally have a faith in my higher power and in God, but that's not everybody's prerogative. Some people have faith in the human condition, faith in themselves, faith in their family's will to succeed. Friends, family is what you make it sometimes. And during a crisis like this, people often come together, I think, in ways that we haven't before. I liken it to the groups in Italy who, at a certain time during the day, come outside of their windows and clap and bang on pans for the first responders and for the essential workers. And I think that's fantastic. I think we're seeing that right now. I think if you are in crisis and you're isolating or self-isolating or social distancing, I think it's important and imperative to text the crisis text line at the very least for a counselor that's going to be to you within seconds. You can text CNQR to 741741, and that stands for something. That's our foundation's Conquer keyword, and that stands for CNQR, courage to talk about your mental health, N for normalize the conversation, Q for ask the questions. Are you thinking of suicide? Are you thinking of killing yourself, and have you made a plan to take your life? That's been proven to be the question. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Has been proven by the crisis text line's data to be more effective than are you suicidal in getting the truth out of people. And are you thinking of, have you been making plans to take your life? Ask that secondary question. And recovery, if you look at me, it's living proof that we can recover. We can find well-being back again. We can get to a better place. I think it's crucial. I think so many people in the mental health space are supporting a transition to telehealth for mental health appointments and adapting regulations about telehealth to make it more accessible for people. I use it. One of the most important tools in my opinion, is the online therapy app BetterHelp.com. I was able to collaborate with them recently, and today you can go to betterhelp.com/Kevin Hines and get 10% off your first month. So there's a great resource. That's betterhelp.com/Kevin Hines for 10% off your first month. And it's also a great time to dig into your resiliency skills, even if you feel like they're lacking. I think that we can radically accept the situations we face each day if we just look at them through a different lens and through a different perspective. We can be patient and non-judgmental with ourselves and others. And both mentally and physically, we should be taking great care of our health, I think, if you have the ability at home to do so, if you're physically capable, of course. We have to find ways to sleep enough, eat foods that are healthy for us. We have to exercise. And it's important throughout life, but especially critical during these times of major stress and change. And on that note, I want to share what I do to stay stable. I've developed a 10-step recovery plan that a lot of folks are using that is helping them find balance in these chaotic and stressful times. It incorporates sleep, routine, proper nutrition, which means eating non-inflammatory foods and high nutrient foods, therapy, meditation, and exercise. And you can find free videos about this on youtube.com/Kevin Hines and search the playlist The Art of Wellness. These are just a few of the things that I've come up with to try to help my community and the communities at large to stabilize when they're struggling. And not just to do that, but to have the people around them, the people who love them, be their support network in a visceral and real sense. And I think during this time of COVID-19, when we're afraid to go outside and we're afraid to get the disease, we need to remember that we are loved, we are valued, and we are important, and we matter.
Right. So staying connected, you said, about faith, which could be faith in a higher power, it could be faith in whatever is stabilizing for that person. Family, and remember to connect with family even during this time. We can do that remotely, or virtually or whatever. And also friends, not to pull inward just because we're socially isolated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that finding your faith, finding what you believe in and what means the most to you, and utilizing that to keep you strong is very important. I find that my wife, Margaret, who you know very well, is my rock and my go-to, and I'm lucky that I'm able to be in quarantine with her, and that we're able to support each other and get each other's backs when maybe we have an anxiety attack or panic attack due to this whole issue.
Yeah, me and my husband are doing the same for each other, and it's good to marry well to somebody who is really a good friend, right?
Yep,
which I know you've done. I really love Marge, and I think you're both very lucky, actually. But it's nice to like your spouse during this time. Not everybody feels that way, I hear. But it is great when you can help each other, because there's going to be ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
One day one person's going to have more anxiety, maybe another day it's going to be the other person, or maybe some depression, especially as this thing kind of wears on. And like you said, the confusing information, including, I think, the one that got to me yesterday, which is maybe this will just be with us forever now.
Yeah, I just saw that this is never going to go. It potentially is never going to go away and become like the flu, which comes to us every year, or on a seasonal basis. And that for the grief that America and the world is going through right now, for the over 100,000 lives that have been lost in America alone, for all the people in that much pain over a loss that some would say didn't need to occur had the disease not gotten out in the first place. And we can debate all day about the politics of that, but right now we're in it with the world, and we have to be in it together. And there are great resources in the people who love you, in the sense that they say that texting is great, but seeing someone either on FaceTime or a video call, or hearing the voice of someone on the phone actually helps your neurotransmitters in your brain connect in a way that gives you relief. So it's important to not just text, but also really reach out to as many people as possible on your list in your phone, and encourage your friends and family that are not physically together to still conversate, to house your concerns and your worries and your woes, and do it in a way that is beneficial and mutually beneficial to your well-being. I think that when, just like we're doing right now, Lisa, we're talking, I can see you, we've gotten the chance to work together over the years, but this is in the end of the day going to help me feel better. This is therapeutic.
For me too. It really is. And, you said that you've been using telehealth. I've been doing that with the people I work with too, including starting with new people during this time. And I think, it is an important resource too. But I think just what we're doing right now is wonderful too. You said for yourself that, you have these different principles like taking care of your physical health, getting enough sleep, and you're able to do that even while quarantine, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things I'm doing to take care of my mental health is, get enough sleep. Listen, I used to be an insomniac. I've been an insomniac on more than one occasion, more than one time period in my life, and I've lived with things like parasomnia, sleep apnea, um, uh, sleep paralysis, very, very severe sleep disorders. And I've climbed back from those brinks on many occasions. And it takes time, it takes effort, it takes research, it takes energy, it takes hard work. And so I really do sleep 6 to 8 hours a night, probably 5 to 6 nights a week. There was a long road to get there from my mental unrest of the past. After my attempt off the Golden Gate Bridge, after my 9 psych ward stays, there were a lot of issues dealing with lack of sleep, but I finally got it under control recently, and it's been a blessing. The amount of sleep I get, those 6 to 8 hours a night, keeps me calm, cool, and collected during the day to the best of my ability. And 6 to 8 hours at night are crucial for your brain to function at its highest capacity. Sufficient sleep for me means less to no psychosis and better mood. I'm very conscious today of my circadian rhythm, and I pay attention to screen times, especially in the evening. Many of us have probably heard that blue light is bad for us in the evenings, which is true, that blue light also has important benefits for us. Blue light comes from the sun naturally, and it helps our circadian rhythm stay on track. Studies have shown that sunlight helps reduce stress, improves mood, and even brain function. What I do next to benefit my brain health on a regular basis is I mostly eat non-inflammatory foods, or as often as possible. I try to stick to the Mediterranean diet, high intake of fruit, vegetables, whole grains, fish, lean meats, and nuts. This has been proven to decrease inflammation. It protects you against depressive symptoms and anxiety. It's just all around really a great plan. I work out at least 23 minutes twice a day, because 23 minutes of rigorous exercise leads to 12 hours of better mood. When I don't do that, when I fall off that routine, I do not feel good. I don't feel well, and so it really helps me. If I'm not going to go and do a 23-minute workout, then I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk with my wife, or a jog, or do push-ups at home, or yoga, or stretching. Anything to move that body, to get the blood flow going. Like I said, if you have physical mobility and you're able to do so, is crucial. Exercise promotes brain plasticity, stimulates growth of new connections between brain cells, many important cortical areas of the brain. Exercise, as we know, releases chemicals like endorphins and serotonin that improve your mood. And if you exercise regularly, you can reduce the stress and symptoms of your mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, help with recovery from mental health issues of all kinds. As I said before, Dr. Firestone, I have bipolar disorder type 2, type 1 with psychotic features, and it's a pretty severe form of mental illness. So I work with a psychiatrist who's also a psychopharmacologist who studies my weight gains, weight losses, and works with my regimen. And we it's an ebb and flow of change. I'm educating myself as to the latest and greatest findings in bipolar disorder on a regular basis. I get a Google alert on bipolar disorder on a regular basis, so I know what are the most formidable, proven forms of therapy that are working today? How can I incorporate them into my plan and my better mental well-being? I take medication to treat my brain disorder. I adhere to a strict regimen of timing of medication. I take it at the same time every morning and at the same time every night, with 100% accuracy every day, because that's the best way to have that medication be best for you. I think that, if you need medication for liver disease, heart disease, lung disease, nobody bats an eye. Everyone says that you have to take that, or else your heart's going to fail. You have to take that, or else your liver's going to fail, your lungs going to fail. And mental health medication should be no different. We should have no shame in our game of having to take mental health medication, because it is the same perspective. If you're taking it for a physical health issue, it should just be treated the same as a mental health issue. It should just all be encompassed into health. I think the First Lady, right, Rosalind Carter, said it best. There should be no mental health or no physical health. There should just be health. She said that 60 years ago, and we're still struggling to comprehend that, which baffles my mind. And the other thing is, along with my wife, I advocate for myself and my treatment plan. I ask a lot of questions when I see my doctors. I do a lot of research, and I educate myself about my treatment, my mental illness, and my medication, and I learn new tools on a regular basis, and they're never stale. And I think that the biggest lesson I've learned, Doc, is that, and this is what my father taught me this, because my dad.
Yeah.
Hard work, because nothing good ever came without it. And I didn't get mentally sound until I worked tirelessly to do so. And the reality, sadly, is that people who are mentally unwell have a very hard time to put in the hard work to get to a better place. But it's not impossible. As I said, recovery, I'm living proof.
Yeah, absolutely. It is totally possible. And it does help to have a good support system around you, like you said.
Yeah.
We had some questions from Instagram. One was, how do you maintain healthy routines, which you just said, right, that you did answer. How can I help a person that has depression and shows signs of wanting to end her life?
So the question is really, how do you help someone who's suicidal during this time, right? And it's a really crucial question in this day and age when suicides run rampant across the world. And when you look at COVID-19, there are some stats coming out saying that instead of every 40 seconds, there's a suicide now every 20 seconds, which is absolutely terrifying. And we'll know the real numbers when they come out sooner rather than later. But you want to help someone who is going through that every possible way you can think of. By talk, by phone, by text, call their friends and family if you're worried about them, reach out to them on social media. The point is to exhaust every possible resource so that they clearly understand they're not alone, that they are valued, and they are worth living. You might not be quarantined with this person, but you can assure them that they can call you or text you. This is a scary time. We've lived through scary times in the past, and at this moment in time, we have to be our brothers and sisters and individuals' keepers. We really do. It's not enough for us to say to people in pain to reach out. We have to be the ones, whether they're showing that pain or not, to reach in. If you are a mentally stable person for the most part, and you see someone in active emotional pain, it is our duty to reach in and to say, I got your back, and to say you're not alone in this, and I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen intently with active listening skills, not to interrupt you or judge you. And that's really some of the most amazing things you can do to someone who's going through it. But next to that, it's really important that we go to the people who don't look like they're in emotional pain and ask them those direct questions as well, and be frank with them about mental struggles in general, and dig a little bit to see who's really going through it and who might need a helping hand.
Right. And then kind of mount, like you said, a full force, get their friends, their family, anybody who might be helpful to them involved, who is quarantined with them, who do they need to know, can they help? Really trying to surround them with that love and care, at those most delicate moments. I agree with you 100%. And it's not just saying to them, you should reach out. We can reach out. We can call. We can text. We can help get them help.
Yes. And we can be the guides to them finally finding their pathway to hope. And that's really what we want to do. We want to be guides to hope in this time. And there are groups of people that don't believe hope exists, and there are groups of people that don't have empathy for others. And I think they say 10% of the population has no empathy for other people. And I think we need to turn that 10% around. We need to be the voice. We need to be the active person that helps change minds in our respective communities. And we need to share a passion for giving back to others. Those we know, those we love, those we don't know from Adam, and those we don't even like. Imagine if we lived in a world where people put away their petty squabbles and were kind and compassionate to each other just because it was the right thing to do. It would make this world a much better place and a much easier place to live and survive with suicidal ideations in crisis.
Absolutely, Kevin. And I know you do this yourself all the time. I've seen you give talks in the line of people who want to personally, or even the story you've told us before of just be walking down the street and seeing somebody who's struggling and just staying with them, even though they didn't want to talk to you, and then asking them if you could call anybody and calling a friend for them and getting them the help they needed in that moment, the way they were willing to accept it. And I know that you live and breathe this message that you're saying. You're not just saying it.
Yeah, I cannot tell you, my wife and I are our own personal crisis text line. We get letters and messages from every social media outlet, from every email, from every website, and they come in droves of people in pain. And sadly, I'll be frank with you, we can't get to every one of them, and that's the hard part, is that we're only two people, but we reach out to as many as we possibly can to let them know how much we love and care for them. I love every human being. It's the way I was built. I don't stay mad at people. I forgive everyone who wrongs me, and I move forward, and I love every single human being on the face of the planet, because I don't know what they've gone through to get to the place of where they are today. And if that's a person who doesn't like me for some reason, or doesn't appreciate the work I do, and that's fine, that's their prerogative. But I still love them, and I want them to be well, and I care for them because they're human. And to be human is to err, it's to make mistakes. To be human is to mess up. And I think if we were a little less, if we limited our expectations of some people, so that we wouldn't get disappointed by them, we would understand that managing our expectations is key to moving forward in any relationship, whether it be a work, a colleague relationship, a loving relationship with a husband or wife, or a significant other of any kind, or whether it be a relationship with your pet or your animal, or your emotional support animal. It doesn't matter. We have to manage our expectations of that relationship so that we don't get so disappointed when people let us down. And I think that recognizing that people have their limits, and you have to respect those limits and those boundaries in order to move forward from a painful situation. I've been through hell in my life, Dr. Firestone. I've been through hell with my mental health, but I have to be frank. That hell was equally as bad for everyone that was around me during my times of struggle. They were hurt too. And I have to remember that they have these visceral memories of pain that my actions caused them because of my mental illness. And I can't forget that, because when they look at me, they remember it. They think about it. They're worried it's going to happen again. And that's why I have to fight so hard to be mentally stable and to just try to help other people as often as I can, as often as we can.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's so important. And I think the resource of the text line, which I know you're on their board and involved with them, I heard someone from that organization give a great presentation at the American Association of Suicidology recently, the virtual conference.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful,
Nancy Lublin, right? The director?
Yeah, she's great.
She's amazing. She's phenomenal.
Yeah. And also, the National Lifeline, that those resources are there for people. But I think what you said is true, that it's a good mental health principle for us to adopt that accepting attitude toward everyone, and that caring attitude toward everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're always going to love their behavior, but we, like you said, we don't know what happened to them. We don't know their hurt. And, that being able to reflect on and look at the hurt you may have caused others is something not everybody's very good at doing, but it's important. I have a patient who went through a lot of trauma, and she's now looking at all the trauma she caused her loved ones who care about her a lot during that time. And she's starting to do some of that repair and letting them voice, what they went through. And those aren't easy conversations, but they're very worthwhile conversations. And they lead to a lot of healing, and more closeness with that person. And that's why it's so worthwhile to have them sometimes.
That's so true, and so, when you're out there and you're going through it and you're considering suicide, there are a couple things you can do. You can, as I said earlier, text CNQR to 741-741, the crisis text line, of which Nancy Loveland is the director, or you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, of which John Draper is the director, and that's Dr. John Draper, and that's 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. Which they're working on very hard legislation to change it to a 988 number, which is like a 911 but for suicide prevention. So the call times are lowered and you get through to them more easily. But both those tools are so important, and our foundation works with both those organizations, as I know you do as well, and so many across the country do as well. And we really want people to recognize that a pain shared is a pain halved, that they're not alone, and that they can fight this struggle through being open and honest about their pain, because it's the only way to unburden it from your soul. I was recently watching a big Tony Robbins talk, and he said, don't share your pain with other people. It does and nobody any good. It's a waste of time, and it's a waste of other people's energy, and you're just feeling sorry for yourself. And I felt really bad about that, because every scientist will tell you that a pain shared is a pain halved. You can look at the data and the research behind this. Sharing your pain with someone who is empathetic to your struggles, it does something very, very important for you. It gives you a sense of relief from that pain, and that is a known fact. And not to put anybody down in the speaking world, I know Mr. Robbins is a phenomenal, empowering speaker. I get that. He changes lives all over the world. Get it, got it, good. Thank goodness for all his work. But I disagree with that one notion. I think you have to share your pain so you can defeat it. And because if you hold it inside, it's only going to bubble and fester and grow until it bursts, and things like rage, aggression, violence, substance use disorder, suicidal thoughts, ideas or actions, eating disorders. And I think if we were able, as a nation, as a globe, as a people, as a society, to always share our struggles, and if there were always people who listened, we'd be in a much better place, because we would feel that sense of relief, that getting it off our chest, because there are so many people in this world that are abused, neglected, forgotten, treated horribly, marginalized, and we need to affect change in those people's lives with positivity from us to them.
Right. I totally agree with you. And I totally agree with that point that sharing our pain helps. And there are people who are willing to listen, and you may not have always been treated that way, but it's still worth reaching out. We did also have a question from Twitter. How can I determine if my depression is real and isn't all in my brain?
Just by you asking that question, I think you already have. You asked the question, how can I determine my depression is real? By looking in the mirror and saying my depression is real, and that it is legitimate, and that it may be derived from your brain, which is in your head, but it affects your entire body and your entire persona. So I think just looking in the mirror and having that honest conversation with yourself, has this depression lasted longer than 2 weeks, then it may be clinical, and I may need to go get assessed for help.
Right. And don't hesitate to get help. If it turns out that it's only a mild depression, great. That's still worth getting the help with, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you should just forget about it. Or can't tell you how many people are told things like, well, it's just going to college. It's just changing jobs. It's just COVID-19. So, you'll be fine. Go get help. If you're struggling, why not reach out for help, right? It's better to reach out than to try to just deal with the pain by yourself.
Absolutely agree with that, 100%.
Yeah. What would you do or say to somebody who's suicidal right now? How would you reach out to them?
I would let them know that suicide is never the solution to your problem. It is in fact the problem. And you can look at me as living proof of that ideal. But I attempted in a way that is 99% fatal. I survived the fall of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I live with regular thoughts of ending my life, but I'll never die that way. So if you're going through suicide right now, suicidal ideation right now, just stop. Look in the mirror, take 10 deep breaths, resonance breathing, in 4, out 8. Take 10 deep breaths, take a moment, look in the mirror, and instead of that self-hatred, say your name and say, I love you. Say your name and say you're the best. Say your name and say you're the greatest. Say your name and say you're amazing. And reverse those negative inner critical thoughts. And then the next thing you should do is find someone who empathizes with you or who generally cares for you and tell them your truth. If you can't physically tell them, write it down. But get that message to them so they can get you to safety. Because all we want is for you to be here tomorrow and every day after that. And suicide should never be the solution to your problem. As I said before, it is the problem. And we want you to stay.
Thanks so much for that. I think it's so important. But I just think, this idea of taking care of your own mental health, taking care of the mental health of those people around you, reaching out to people, using the resources that are out there, whether it be the text line, the lifeline, resources like your videos on YouTube, things that people can access, things like on our PsychAlive YouTube channel, using the resources that are out there to get the help you need. And to know that there are people who care, that your life does affect other people, that it's worth making the effort, to get the help, and it's worth us all making the effort to take care of each other. I love that message of, we all need to look out for each other right now.
Yeah, we are here for one another. That's what we were put on this earth to do and be. And there are a lot of people who forgot about that a long time ago, but there are a great many more people who really believe that. And I think they're the majority. The people that care about everyone and those around them. And listen, if you need resources for mental health, I've got a couple for you. You can go to kevinhinesstory.com/resources. You can find there my 10-step plan to the art of wellness, including a mental health emergency plan. You can find a parent's and teacher's guide to suicide prevention. And you can find a guide to my YouTube channel and all the videos and how each video helps what kind of mental illness or mental struggle. And that's youtube.com/kevinhines. Make sure you go on there, subscribe there, because we put out videos every Saturday that are designed to help you A, stay alive, B, fight your pain, or C, get through a mental struggle and change your life. So these videos are by design there to help you. And people are saying from as far as Peru, Africa, China, Japan, that they are dramatically changing people's lives, and we want them to change yours. So please avail of these services, avail of these resources. They're all free and they're yours. Take them. And share them, because you could be the person that shares that right video with that right person and they choose life instead of death.
Right. You can really make a difference. I think people don't often realize that they themselves could just make a huge difference. One caring, concerned person taking the time to listen matters. And, listening skills are something that we have often forgot about. We're so busy worrying about talking and us stopping when talking, that listening is just so important, just being there for somebody and letting them tell their story, whether it's their story around their suicidal feelings or whatever pain is causing them pain in their life, and just being willing to listen to that and take that in, and, really does a lot. Like you said, a pain shared is a pain halved,
I think sometimes you're right. It's not about what we say. It's about what we do to give back to that person in pain. And if all they need is a listening ear, bend an ear for that person and be that sounding board without judgment, without expectations, and without preconceived notions about what that person is meaning. Really just listen and be there, and just be that shoulder to cry on, because you could be the reason they choose life, or they choose to change the direction of their existence. And I think that's so amazing that human beings have the power to affect others in that way, with with that level of compassion and empathetic tone.
Absolutely. And there are so many resources out there that people can avail themselves of. And I hope people would be inspired just by your story, Kevin, because, and maybe it would help to tell a little bit of, where you came from, and how, you've mentioned that you made the jump that you did, and attempted to end your life at that time and have gotten healthy. But, I know there's a whole story there of that struggle,
Yeah. I mean, I was born in severe poverty. I was fed what my mom and dad could steal. Kool-Aid, Coca-Cola, and sour milk was my first diet. Um, I got lucky and got adopted by a beautiful family. My mom and dad, the Hines family, they took me and made me their son, gave me a great and beautiful, bright future. But I did have 9 months in foster care, where I was very traumatic. I would bounce around from home to home, 5 homes before 9 months of age, no stability. Got into a stable home and was adopted by that home and given a beautiful life, and thought to myself, everything's going to go swimmingly from here. And then everything came crashing down at 17 with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. By 19, I was at the bridge ready to die with my hands. I attempted, I survived. And since that moment in time, I've dedicated my life to the cause of suicide prevention and mental wellness and well-being efforts with my wife. And it's been a long and arduous journey, and a hard journey, but it's been one I'm glad that I went on the journey. I wish I never attempted off the Golden Gate Bridge. That was the single worst day of my life. But I'm grateful that I survived. I thank God every day that I survived. Um, just to express to the miracle that it was, a sea lion kept me afloat in the water before the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. Otherwise, I would not be talking to you right now. And that was just an amazing feat in of itself. I am seriously and literally grateful for every millisecond I get to walk this green earth, because I almost didn't get to. And
Mm-hmm.
and so many people have lost loved ones to suicide. I've now lost 10 people I care for and love to suicide in my existence, and I think about them every day, and I pray for their families every day. And it's not easy to get past that. And I don't believe you can move on from a suicide. I do, however, believe you can move forward. You can look to the living, find hope and resilience in this life today, and move forward with your pain. And you can be here tomorrow and every day after that. And that's what I'm going to do. I live with regular thoughts of suicide, but I will be here tomorrow. I will never again attempt to take my life so long as I shall live, because I've been given this coveted second chance, and it's a gift, and I need to remember that. And so if I can share that with as many people as humanly possible, that's what I'm going to do until the day I die of natural causes.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And, and it's not like this straight uphill battle, right? It's this, rocky road, that people go through in, and that you've gone through in achieving the stability that you have in your life,
Yeah, and it's a constant journey. It's the everlasting journey. It's a path I'm going to walk for the rest of my life, and it's a path I have to walk carefully, because any wrong turn, any big drop off of my routine, and I'm back to square one. And so, that's a reality for me and my family, and my wife and my friends. And I have to respect that, and in respecting that, that means I have to do the hard work to stabilize.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for people during this time, there's people who had mental health challenges before this time, but I think there's going to be even more people coming out of this time with mental health challenges. I was talking to somebody yesterday that has a close family friend who went through having COVID, has survived, luckily, but they are now dealing with the mental health challenges that are left behind. Yeah. A lot of fear and anxiety, and some pretty significant depression. And, the research is pretty clear that after pandemics, often the suicide rate goes up, mental health challenges go up, partly for the people who went through it and survived the actual disease, but also for the loved ones, now with 100,000 people losing their lives just in the US from COVID. You think about all the family members impacted by that,
that
who've
level
lost
of
loved ones.
grief.
There's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
grieving to be done,
Yeah.
sometimes families that have lost multiple members, right,
Yeah.
to this terrible disease. And it's just really sad. There's going to be a lot of importance to the mental health work that you do, and following, unfortunately, this crisis too. But especially during this time where everybody's isolated and we're just, like you said, struggling with the input of confusing information of how we can cope best and what's even the safest things to do, and how can we take care of our mental and physical health right now. But I really think that it's so important, and this is only going to get more important,
Yeah, and it might be a cliche to keep saying it, but it's time to come together in a show of force, digitally or otherwise, and be there for one another to the best of our ability, and to lean on each other, even if it happens to be virtually.
Absolutely. But I think we really do need to do that to keep connecting, and not stop after this is done either. To really reaching out and looking for those who might be made more vulnerable by what we've been through. And you're right, it's everybody, it's the whole world, right, that's been impacted by this. Obviously our country probably the worst, and probably partly because of how we've handled it, but all over the world.
Yeah, our brothers and sisters and individuals from all over the world are going through the same pain we are, and we need to connect and collaborate and find ways to improve our health and well-being, not just our mental health, but certainly our physical health, and find more ways to keep safe from COVID. Those of us who don't have it, and to reach out to those of us that we are aware of that did get diagnosed, and make sure we let them know we love them, and that we can be a sounding board for them and be there for them emotionally when they're struggling, before, during, and after they've recovered, because they will have an everlasting impact from that. And they're even showing some signs that it doesn't just affect the lungs afterwards. If you do recover, it can affect other organs in the body. And now they're looking at how people are increasing in blood clots, and there's all kinds of new evidence and information out there that we're finding. So we just have to remember that we can do one of two things in this situation. We can be in an everlasting panic, or we can be the helpers of the world. So if COVID gives you an exorbitant amount of anxiety, make sure you're doing those breathing techniques every day to bring your mind to a calm, to rest your mind, and know that you've got people out there that are rooting for you, that care for you, and that want you to find a better place to be in mentally. And be vigilant, and be safe. Wash your hands, and be kind to the person next to you, because you never know what they're going through.
I like ending right there, Kevin, because I think that's the most important message. Let's all try to be kind to each other, because you don't know what the other person's gone through or what they're struggling with. And I think we all took that approach, and took the approach that, our health is important, physical and mental, and that they're really, really destigmatized any moves toward health. They're just as important, and are going to be really important after, during this time of COVID, but after as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Firestone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Kevin, for being here with me today. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And it's just great to see you.
Great to see you too, as always, for sure.
Please give my love to Marge.
I will. And love to the whole household.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.